Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Friday night. The weekend is upon us. What's going on? It's the Earthmaster here, about 10:15 in the PM, California time, August 2nd, 2024, Friday night. Latest activity here shows some further movement out around the Philippines area with another large earthquake coming in with a 6.3 earthquake. A lot of movement going on here across the area of the Philippines here into the Philippine Trench. Latest earthquake, as I mentioned, 6.3, about 9 kilometers or 9 to 10 miles deep here into this area. Over the course of the last few hours or so, following that 6.8 here, we got a number of large earthquakes, 5s and 4s stirring up out here, and the latest one is 6.3. Now the question is here, are we looking at something maybe bigger popping up here? That's a very good question. The 6.8 coming in earlier to start things off, originally coming in as a 7-pointer. It got downgraded here to a 6.8. So let's take a look here at historical data in the area of the Philippines, which is right here. Check that out. There's a lot of earthquake activity out here, folks. This is nothing new. This area of the Philippine Trench is a large player out here in terms of producing large earthquakes. A lot of stress builds up out here in this area. So there's our 6.3, 6.8 a few hours ago. Prior to that, guess what? We had a 7.1 here, a little bit further deeper. Look how deep that is. Left here on the screen, a little bit here further deeper into the Philippine Trench. That's 627 kilometers deep here into this area for that 7.1. Just about a month. Well, it was last month, back in July. So obviously strain has been building up out there across the surface area. What can we see far as larger scale activity goes? Well, we see some 8s out there. Not out of the question to maybe see something larger. But historically here, 8s in general have been around the area of the Philippine Trench since records have been kept. The last 8-pointer looks to be a 8.0 back in 1972, so no doubt a lot of time has passed. 8.1 back in 1924, and an 8.3 back in 1918. Prior to that, 7.9, 1976, 7.9, 1913, and so on. A lot of larger scale activity here a long time ago. We haven't really seen anything majorly recent. 7.6 though, back in looks like last year, December, roughly around this area where we're seeing that activity today. So whether this is aftershock activity from last year's earthquake or maybe something bigger about ready to brew out here, I guess we'll see what's in the forecast. Right now, another large earthquake, 6.3, stirring up the seismograph stations out here, no doubt. The 6.8 earlier definitely rang the earth like a bell. There is the surface waves here traveling throughout the planet following that 6.3. That earthquake, or that surface wave, they're showing up on the Barrett station there in Southern California. So we'll continue to watch the Philippine Trench area. There's a lot of earthquake activity popping up here at once, and the more that we see some 6s, some mid 6s, the more the likelihood here is that we'll see something larger following that type of event. We don't normally see a 6.8 followed up by multiple mid 6s and whatnot. That would tell me right there that something's a little bit bigger about ready to happen out here across the Philippines. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it. Again, it's a major subduction zone area, and it's not out of the question here that we could see maybe a 9-pointer. Just because we haven't seen anything here historically doesn't mean it's not possible. So keep an eye there on the Philippines area. Also, this region down here, actually literally just a couple hours prior to the earthquake activity there in the Philippines, we've seen things stir up out here across the Solomon Islands area. I said to watch this area because it eventually was going to fill in. Well, it did with a 5-pointer and a 4.0, but that seems to have allowed further strain and stress out here against this area to trigger this large earthquake activity that's occurring right now there in the Philippines. So we'll keep an eye on it. Definitely capable of seeing some larger scale activity out there. It's not out of the question. And of course, what goes on there across the western areas of the Pacific Plate shows up on the Big Island of Hawaii. We got a 2.7 well underneath this area, 30 miles underneath this area. That's got to do with the weight and the strain here of the Hawaiian Islands on the Pacific Plate in general. As far as anything of abnormal activity out here, just getting a handful of earthquakes out here across the Kilauea Volcano region. Let's double check that here real quick, see what we got for the latest activity. Where the volcano is still certainly sitting at a yellow and advisory. Nothing major as far as any changes go observed out here for now. Here's some of the earthquake activity being reported there on the seismograph station there in the past 12 hours. We'll see if all this large-scale activity out there in the Philippines stirs up things across the Hawaii area. Got to remember, the Hawaii area is a hot spot, so when you get some further movement out here in the west, well, ultimately that can adjust here over the hotspot area, which is the Hawaii Islands. The Pacific Plate moves, and eventually we'll have some further Hawaii Islands out in this direction here to the southeast. You can see them throughout time. They're on the oceanic crest there as they've made their way. Well, they haven't, but the Pacific Plate has moved accordingly and produced these islands throughout time here as it's shifted throughout the area. All right, let's check out the West Coast here real quick. I know California been rocking and rolling a little bit out here. 3.3, 3.4. It got upgraded here this morning outside the Salton City area. Got a little bit of swarming going on here associated with that earthquake. That's crazy. I think a lot of aftershock activity following a 3.4. That's not really normal out there. But we'll keep an eye here on Southern California region. Got a handful of earthquakes up and down the Imperial Fault. Got to remember when things take place out there across the Western Pacific as well. It affects areas out here across the Eastern Pacific. A couple of smaller earthquakes there in the Bay Area of Northern California. 1.7 there, the latest earthquake. Also, did see a little bit of movement here following the Philippines earthquake activity in the Blanco fracture zone. A 4.4 stirring up out here in the strike slip zone. Also off the coast here of the BC region, or the Vancouver Island range, excuse me. Further out here, we've seen a little 4.1. So looks like things are stirring up out here across this area of the Cascadia. Let's go check out the tremor map here tonight real quick, see what we got here for tremor activity. 82 epicenters up here underneath the Vancouver Island ranges, and a little bit there in Northern California. Nothing big, but obviously we got a little bit of strain out here building up back prior to the Cascadia. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up here for now. I will give a quick glance here just to double check this real quick and see what we got. And it looks like they're offline again, so I'm not going to wait all day for that map to load. Looks like they're having some type of issues there at that website I normally visit, but they're offline obviously. Further out and about, Texas area seeing some earthquake activity. Yes, there was an earthquake up here in the Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin area, Lake Michigan region. Rare? Yeah, that's a little rare to see some earthquake activity out there. So let's take a look here historically, see what we got for 2.5 and above in this area, since records have been kept in this area of the area of interest out here. What's going on here? Oh man, look at that. We're down to 0 kbs, folks. Down to 0. That means that somebody is messing with my system here. You guys see that? Down to 0. So I'll continue with the update as long as I can. But that's affecting my internet here. And not for sure what's going on there. As soon as I visit the Yellowstone seismograph stations, it's a little odd. You guys see that? All right, looks like we're back now, but I'm sure the live stream has went down, and that was a little lengthy time frame that we were down there for the KBs. This was down to 0 for about 30 seconds, so more than likely we lost the live stream, but that's a little weird, right? Almost immediately after following a site that's a little suspicious there, Yellowstone seismograph stations there. I'm going to have to watch that, see what's going on with that site, but let's go back and finish what we're doing. We're looking at some of the earthquake activity here across the Lake Michigan area. So let's go back and do that. 2.5 and above since the year 1000. That's a little weird. Right during the update, right? Let's see what we got out here across this area since records have been kept. But I'll probably have to fire back up the live stream here. I'm almost certain that that went down. Oh, it's still up. We're still up right now. Yeah, see it? What happened was, obviously some type of prevention of my uploading packets to the server. So some type of block was going on here on my end. I don't know who, I don't know what, I don't know why they did it, but it pops up here from time to time. Right now we're okay, but surprisingly the live stream did not go down. Goodness. Thanks here, Timothy, for the heads up. So far as earthquake activity, at least according to the records out here, a 2.9 is quite rare in this area. The last earthquake, a 3.8 in this area, back in 1947. But that's with 2.5 and above. Let me modify this here a little bit. I'm just going to go and look and see what we got here for just general earthquake activity. For everything. Is that right? Hold on a second here. Magnitude. Minimum magnitude of 0. Huh, yeah, I get there's nothing showing up here. So for that 2.9 to show up out here in the Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin area, Lake Michigan, is extraordinarily rare. Nothing showing up here historically, so there's never been any type of earthquake activity reported out here. Further down south, yes. In fact, back in 1909, Illinois here seen a 5.1. Today, that would definitely shake up Chicago. A lot different time frame back there in 1909, but quite rare. Goodness. 1804. Seen a 4.4 there in the Chicago, Illinois area. So, all right, well, there's a little bit of odd stuff going on out here. Obviously, nothing of major concern for now. Luckily that wasn't a larger quake. Here in the New Madrid seismic zone, a little 1.8 from earlier this morning. So let's take a look here at the global aspect of things here. There's all that swarming going on there in the Philippines. We'll keep an eye on that, right? Obviously, a 6.3 that just came in here a short time ago is a decent aftershock. Not quite as powerful as the original quake there, 6.8, but if we start getting more of these sixes stirring up here, we could be talking about maybe some larger scale activity about ready to take place in that region. We're talking about upper sevens or so. And just because historically we haven't seen any, large 8s or 9s in this area, doesn't mean it's not likely. That's a fairly lengthy subduction zone area here. And who knows? It's very possible. That's not quite as big as I'm trying to think in terms of the scale of the Cascadia. About 500 miles there. And over here about 500, 600 miles or so. Roughly about the same. But there's obviously more strain out here against the Philippine Trench. This area is always underneath the gun. So I don't think, we're going to see a 9 or 8 pointer out here. But we'll continue to keep an eye on it. New Zealand area, nothing showing up here for now down there in that area where I heard it's cold in the mornings. But I'll take cold over the heat any single day there, Timothy. If you want to swap places, just let me know. I'll send you a ticket and I'll fly on over there. You can take over the controls here in Northern California. 4.8, that's a little rare out here across that rift boundary. You guys see that? In the Africa area, got a 4.8. This is a rift zone. Eventually separating out here. Nothing showing up on the USGS map, but it is right there. Interesting little earthquake. We got a lot going on right now, that's for sure, in terms of plate dynamics. So we'll be on guard, right? There's obviously quite a few areas out here that are well overdue for some larger quake activity. It's just a matter of time. A little bit of movement down south here in the Baja California area as well. Was there a bigger quake down there? Let me see here. There's a 4.1. See that 4.1? That earthquake stirring up down here somewhere. You guys see that 4.1? I'll click that there. 6:05 p.m. California time, so about 4.5 hours ago, stirring up down here in this area. If that's the case there, we'll continue to watch Southern California. You know, there's a lot of movement going on out here. You mess with one piece of the puzzle, obviously it's going to adjust accordingly. It could be negative, it could be positive, depending on where that strain and pressure transfers to or loosens up out here across the area. Following that earthquake activity there in the Philippines, I did see a few earthquakes pop up out here following that quake. Nothing major. There's a little swarm up here in the Fontana area, a couple smaller quakes following that event in the Philippines. See that? Just almost immediately following that, 2.7, a couple other smaller earthquakes as well. So whether that's increased the pressure out here or not, it's hard to say. This activity could be the result of the movement that's happening down here in the Baja California area. Either way, a little bit of smaller quake activity right now, 0.9. We'll continue to watch this, folks. There's really no crystal ball when, as far as when there's gonna be earthquake activity here of considerable size. You just never know. It comes up out of the blue. It could come with a swarm. It could come without a swarm, and then that's how it happens out here. 4.3 off the coast there. South America area, nothing showing up here on the USGS map. I don't get it. They're not really reporting too much of the activity out here today in terms of international activity. All right, space weather activity here real quick. We'll check this out. We do have a G2 class storm coming up here over the next couple nights. This is supposedly tonight here. Not a whole lot. Tomorrow night, more than likely, you'll see some auroras down there across the mid to higher latitude states here. Here's a view line. That's for a KP index of 5, but they're forecasting up to a KP index of 6, which would be a G2 class storm. And by the way, that storming that we seen back in May, the auroras all over the place, that was a G5, a once-in-a-lifetime event. But who knows? Maybe that once-in-a-lifetime event will happen again. They say lightning never strikes twice in the same spot. I am one to call that out. I've seen it strike more than once in the same spot in many different occasions. As far as flare threats go, we got to watch that. We got quite a bit of uptick in terms of flaring out here. X flare is elevated at about 25% chance. M flare, we're sizzling almost there with M flares at 75% chance. Of course, C flare is a no-brainer. That's a lot of solar flux energy going on there from many different sunspots out here. We'll watch these areas that are continuing to evolve, and eventually we'll be directly facing the Earth. This very active region out here on the western quadrant of the sun still poses a threat for some strong flaring, but it will be out of sight here and out of mind in the hours and days ahead. So not really too concerned about that. We'll watch these areas out here. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Enjoy your Friday night. Seismograph stations, well, they're recovering, right? Obviously, the Earth was ringing like a bell from the earthquake activity out here tonight. I'm scared to click on the Yellowstone seismograph stations again because it seems like soon as I clicked on it, I started having issues. I got a block here with my data. So I am probably going to go and delete that and pick up something different here in terms of monitoring the Yellowstone seismograph stations there. I can obviously directly look at it, but I've had more issues than I care to mention out there for that website, and they're having a little interesting activity. They don't load properly. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it takes them a minute to load. Yeah, when it comes to security, I need to watch that. All right, folks, have a good night. Stay safe out there. We'll catch you guys back out here for the Saturday morning update. Stay safe.